Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Phelps. Excuse me. I am the Territory Manager for Edmentum in the state of Michigan. And what we are doing today is hopefully going to be one of many short 30-minute videos to either reintroduce you to one of the solutions that Edmentum provides to Southfield School District, or to maybe focus on implementation ideas. And we'll get into kind of those concepts and what we're trying to do here moving forward as I progress in this presentation. Again, this is going to be a 30-minute, maybe a few minutes over 30-minute reintroduction of, as you can see on the main screen, reading eggs. You do have a number of Edmentum solutions available throughout the district. I'm not going to show them to you right now today. However, you will be getting videos on them as well. Just for, I guess, your knowledge, we do offer Play-Doh courseware, primarily at the high school levels right now, but it could be utilized in the middle school as well. We also offer Study Island, which is K-12. It is a solution, if you're not familiar with it, that focuses on M-STEP type of questions practice, as well as NWA type of question practice. Can be utilized as a formative assessment tool, exit ticket, that type of situation. Great tool, and in fact, my colleague Susan Vance will be providing the first reintroduction video on that. We also have Exact Path, which is our newest solution. It does link to the NWA map link and provides individualized learning, teaching practice and quizzes on specific skills in math, reading, and language arts skills. We'll be talking about that and working on that first individually with some lead teachers, and then providing some videos after that. But today, what I am going to be focusing on for the next 30 minutes is reading eggs. Before we get into discussing reading eggs, I do want to point out just a couple things. I want to give you the contact list. So this is obviously saved for you. This video is being recorded, obviously. So if you have any concerns with reading eggs or any of the solutions, specifically for reading eggs, you can contact me. My phone number and email address are right there. Also, Susan Vance. So Susan Vance, where I am the territory manager, Susan Vance is more focused on implementation ideas. She is our implementation consultant that is designated for Southfield School District. Her phone number as well as her email address. If neither of us is available, and quite often if you're dealing with a tech issue or something that goes maybe above and beyond implementation ideas, Reading Egg support is a phenomenal tool, a phenomenal resource. There's their phone number as well as email. Feel free to utilize us. Although you have these solutions, we don't want to just provide that solutions. We want to provide you with the resources and the tools to make it a successful implementation. And so we, as the contacts, will want to do that for you. Today, what we're going to do in this video training, because we want to keep it short. Now, we could go into some specifics, and I'll talk about that towards the end, some implementation ideas. But today, what I wanted to do is make sure that for those of you who haven't seen Reading Eggs in a while and or Reading Eggspress in a while, that we reintroduce that to you. We're going to show you, kind of what a student's going to see. We're also going to make sure you see the new data platform, which is available to you, and I think it's fantastic. Much more detailed and specific in terms of content that you can have, or data that you can have for parents and for yourself. I'm also going to make sure that, because again, we won't have a lot of time to delve into all the different resources that you have available in Reading Eggs, I'm going to point out some areas of interest that I would like to have you explore. Finally, we're going to go ahead and set up a class and an assignment in one of my trial schools. And then finally, I will be providing you in an email form through the district officials some implementation ideas. We have a great write-up on our link and how Exact Path and Reading Eggs can link to and address the procedures in that K3 reading essential practices, as well as a daily 5. If that's part of your focus, the daily 5, how you can utilize Reading Eggs or Reading Eggspress in those practices will be 2 of the documents that we send along. Ultimately, again, today is more about reintroduction, but if this goes well and you all find this of interest and would want to see more of these, we want to hopefully get some information from you on ideas you'd like to see. And then we are more than willing to do a 15 to 30-minute video that we can share throughout the district. So let me downsize that a little bit. Just to give you a quick overview again of Reading Eggs. There are really 2 pieces to Reading Eggs. There's Reading Eggs, which is the one that's primarily used. It is, as you can see, focused on the emergent level, focusing on letter sounds, phonics skills, sight words, so on and so forth. It does address all 5 key pillars of learning to read. The students will take a placement test, and we'll talk about that in a second, in both Reading Eggs and Reading Express, and be slotted on their own learning path from that point. Reading Express, you can see, focused on literal, inferential, and critical reading comprehension, as well as different concepts like, besides the additional phonics and spelling, things like onomatopoeia versus alliteration, making inferences, drawing conclusions, that type of thing will be heavily focused on in Reading Express. Again, we will go into both those areas just to make sure you have a chance to see again what a student's going to see and how you might even be able to utilize that in your everyday lessons. So in here you can see the gray and the blue just to kind of point this out. Although we suggest Reading Eggs is more often used pre-K through grade 2, it can be utilized by 5th, 6th, 4th, 3rd graders, especially if you have some maybe ELL students who have no English language skills. The idea of putting them in Reading Eggs is a very good idea. And conversely, if you have a 1st grader that is reading significantly above 3rd grade level, you can put them into Reading Express and let them grow at their own pace. We'll just kind of quickly go into this and point out a few things that I might have already kind of highlighted a little bit, but I want to reiterate them. First off, every student, unless you elect to have them start right from the beginning, every student will take a placement test. It's a 40-question test. The minute that they get 3 wrong, the test is over and the student starts at their own placement. And it is an activities-based program. So they are learning while doing fun activities. Everything is scaffolded appropriately and done very well. There are motivational rewards in there. So they get golden eggs for completing activities. And at that point, they can use those golden eggs to change their avatar, to add things to their house or to their apartment, to play educational games, so on and so forth. Varied learning options. As again, we haven't talked about it yet, but we'll point out a few of those things like the spelling area and the writing area, but also even for you. You have the ability to change modalities and use printable worksheets in there. And I'll show you where all those are at. So there are going to be varied learning options. Every student will be offered and will read a big book in every stop that they're going on in Reading Eggs or Reading Express. There's also over 2,000 ebooks for them to read. Everything's Lexile leveled appropriately. It's just an easy program to use, but we are going to focus on that reading comprehension as well. Progress monitoring, like I talked about, especially with the new data platform, you will have some phenomenal data points for you to share with principals, with parents, and with students. So that's kind of the quick overview I want to give you. In the next 20 minutes or so, I want to make sure we go into the solution. So I'm going to get out of here and click on to Reading Eggs. I'm going to use, I'm in, Vandenberg Elementary. So this is what you all have throughout the district. Again, it is available at every K5 or K8 building. It's available for all K through 5 students. So even if you have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students that may not want to be or may not need Reading Eggs, you do have the ability to utilize Reading Express as a resource for you. Thank you, Candace, for letting me go into Vandenberg and utilize the platform. But every single school in the district has the exact same tools and resources. To point out before I go into both of these solutions, I'm going to point out the areas that I think could be and I think should be looked at by you. First off is a teacher toolkit. In the teacher toolkit, we have a number of great additional teaching resources available to you, designated by grade level. And I'll just click on the K2. In here, I think if you wanted to incorporate something into small groups or even a whole class lesson, I think you can utilize the spelling activities as there's some interesting things that you can put up on an interactive whiteboard. Same thing with the alphabet activities. We also offer a targeted handwriting program, as well as an interactive informational writing and persuasive writing program. I think these are they're not used as well as I would like to see them used. I think they're phenomenal tools. And you also have other lessons available to you. So in here, in each section, you're going to have different resources that are available to you. And then we also offer big books. And within those big books, we are going to offer book notes, which will, talk about, maybe like a lesson to that, how you'd want to introduce a book to a class or to a group of students, as well as printable worksheets in there as well. So you have, these types of resources linked to every single big book that we offer. So neat resources to change modality and to change learning, how those students are learning. So that is in the teacher toolkit area. The other area that I think is important for you to kind of review once you get in here, as with your teacher login, is to click on the quick links. In the quick links, I would suggest you click on the user guides. And in the user guides, I think obviously the teaching guides are excellent resources for you, but even more important for you are the correlation charts, grades K through 2 and then 3 through 6, as well as a reading correlation chart as well. So just to quickly give you a synopsis on this, so all of our books are leveled and color-coded appropriately, and they will link to reading recovery levels, DRA levels, so or Lexile levels. So you can go ahead and find those books in our system and pick out the books that would be appropriate for your students to read or you to read with them in the class. And then also the correlation charts. The way I like to think about this is when I show you the demo student that we're going to go into in Canvas Slam's demo student, you will have access to maybe pull up, if you're focusing on determining the meaning of domain-specific words and phrases, you could go into any one of these different activities and or assessment and find a resource that you can pull up on your whiteboard and have a lesson or a part of a lesson utilizing this resource. So I think the correlation charts are fantastic, and I think can be very, very, very powerful for you. So again, in your immediate, as you first get logged in, before we even set up a class, I would suggest you look at the teacher toolkit, look at the user guides, and I would also suggest you look at the lessons. And in the lessons in Reading Eggs, I love these because you will have printable lesson plans, as well as a student printable worksheet. So you're going to have a lot of different resources that you can have above and beyond those students taking that placement test and working in this computerized program. So that would be some areas that I would suggest you take a look at. We will get into the reports here in a bit, but before we do that, I want to make sure we go in and spend some time looking at both Reading Eggs and Reading Eggspress. Again, these students, once they go in there that first time, they will be taking a placement test. And once they're on that placement test, they are slotted along their learning path. I am going to go in fact, this is a great class for you to see. You have a lot of usage in here, and you have these students that are probably getting golden eggs and changing their avatars around. Maybe you want to have a Halloween themed best avatar, and you can go ahead and do that and create a little game for your students. But I'm going to go into the demo student of Canvas Slam. Again, this is available to you as a teacher. So every teacher, even if you don't have any students in your classroom, you have the ability to go in there and utilize and review and pick out pieces of this program and utilize it, however you deem necessary. Just to kind of show you, students, this is where they'll spend most of their time. That's the lesson area. There's also Storylands, which is a bridge to Reading Eggspress. there is the spelling area. They take an assessment in the spelling area, and then they work on spelling skills and keyboarding skills in this area. Driving test focuses on early sight words, short vowel, long vowel words, grammar things. And then there's a story factor here, which focuses on writing stories, which you can submit for prizes and that type of thing. Down here, there's a lot of control that you have on what you offer those students or not to see, and things won't be opened up immediately anyway. But the puzzles are a great way for them to get additional golden eggs, a lot of spelling in there. Reggie's Shop is where that student's going to take those golden eggs and go buy things for their house or for their avatar. Games is educational games that they can play utilizing their golden eggs. Songs, they can go listen to songs. So it is a great self-enclosed world for those students to be a part of and to grow. I'm going to go in right now into lessons, and if you've logged in and you want to follow around, feel free to do that. Go ahead and explore as I'm doing this. But I'm going to click on to reading eggs, and again, this is map 12. So this is the end of reading eggs. I'm going to go in towards the start. There are, again, 12 maps. Within each map, there are 10 stops, and then a quiz for them or an assessment based upon everything that they have worked on in here. If they don't pass it, I believe the passing level is 72.5. They're asked to go back in and work some more in some areas and then come back and retake that test. Everything, again, is scaffolded and it's locked out. So when I go in as one of my students here in a bit, you'll see that if I'm on map 91, I can't get to map 92 until I've completed everything in map 91. Again, this is all scaffolded appropriately. We call them stepping stones. So maps 1 through 4, it's going to be more focused on letter sounds, early sight words, those types of, focuses. And then it builds. 5 through 8 is going to be short vowel, long vowel, some building of sentences, that type of thing. I'm moving into 9 through 12, which really focuses heavy on comprehension. So I'm going to go in real quick. We'll go right from the start so you can see what map 1.1 looks like.
Hi, I am Sam, and I'm going to show you the sound like in mouse.
Click on
And I will go through this here in a second. We'll go through one activity, one stop. But just so you have an idea, there's anywhere from, this one has 6 activities before they read the big book. I've seen as many as 13 activities in a particular section. But they'll go through and they'll complete each activity. And again, if they are in here, this one will be locked up. This one will be locked up if they're starting until they complete each stop. Heavy reinforcement at this age and at this focus when we're focusing on letter sounds. As we get into reading Express or even further along in reading eggs, reinforcement is a lot less heavy. More focused on getting them, making sure they have that understanding, and then moving them on to the next concept.
click on
No, it's this one. I think we think together. I think and I think we think you're clever. You're clever.
So again, after they've completed that activity, they get some golden eggs and they move on to the next one. We're going to skip down towards the bottom just so you can see what a big book looks like. Now this is relatively new, so it's going to be a lot of focus, basically a picture book focusing on M words. Can be read to them or have it turned off. But they would go through, they would read this book, complete it, And then they get an avatar that they'll be able to collect in their little. They have an avatar book that they'll be able to collect and find out information about all of those different avatars. So that is. I do want to go in. Let's go in a little bit further down the line. We'll go into map 11, and just so you can kind of see how it differs as they progress along in this solution.
I'm going to show you how you can mix sounds around to make new words and some crazy creatures.
Click on the sound cr. Cr. Click on the sound ab. 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 Crab. Click on the sound sn. Sn. Click on the sound ale. Ale. Sn. Ale. Snail.
Now, let's make some funny nonsense words. Click on the one that says crail. Click on the one that says snap. I like playing with sounds and making up funny words.
Click on the sound.
So they would go through this, and continue this activity. And again, there'll be other activities for them to work on. And then when they're done, they'll read the big book. So you can see where we went from a picture book type of activity to now, obviously multiple sentences at times in a picture book for them to read.
Say hello to Frankie the Frog. He is a friendly frog who likes to munch on spotty grubs.
So again, that is a further down the line, map 11 or so, map 11 out of 12. This is kind of the activities and the books that they're going to be reading at that point. Again, everything is going to build upon each other so that student is able to handle it and handle the level that they're at. I'm going to take a quick break here real quick. I'm going to stop for 1 second. Okay, so now I want to go into Reading Eggspress to give you just a quick synopsis of what Reading Eggspress looks like and some of the areas that I think are important. Again, this would be for your high-achieving pre-K through grade 2 students or, for any student grades 3 through 5. We're going to enter in here. Again, they will take a placement test and be slotted wherever they need to be slotted, but they will have their lessons that they're working on. They'll have a library where they can go read books. Again, over 2,000 ebooks. Everything is Lexile leveled or age leveled. There's also a stadium where they can play educational spelling quizzes and grammar quizzes against either kids in the classroom. I'll kind of quickly just look in there so you can see what it looks like. I can play against the world. I can play against the class. I can practice or even play against the students in the school. So, there's a stadium. There's also English skills, which will be similar to the stadium. It's not against other students, but it's going to be kind of short quizzes for them to work on. Again, they'll have the mall, which is where they can buy stuff for their students or for their avatar. They still have the golden eggs. They have the apartment, which takes the place of the house. Trophy room, arcade, little game area for them. Again, educational games for them to play, and additional targets for them to get golden eggs through. I'm just going to go in real quick just to show you the difference between Reading Eggs and Reading Eggspress. We'll just pick one here pretty quick. We'll do this one. Cover story. So within Reading Eggspress, the focuses are, again, a little bit different. I am going to have to answer, no matter what, in every stop that I make, I am going to have to answer questions about the cover, what the book's going to be about. I also am going to have to pick out 3 words from the dictionary that I want to learn about. And they'll be focused on, obviously, the cover story. They'll be linked to this cover story. But then again, here's the different concepts they'll be working on, like making inferences, compare and contrast, blankety blanks, word building. And then they will read a section from a book and then have to pass a quiz. Similar to what you saw with the end of the line or at the end of a map in Reading Eggs, the percent is 75% or 72.5% is what we want to see them to be passing. Quickly just show you what the cover story looks like, give you an idea. Very quick again, not as much reinforcement. Very quick in terms of what you're working on.
Reading Express Dictionary.
You will need to study 3 of these words. Choose a word to study.
And all of these books, or all of these words again, will link to what they're going to be reading in at the end of the chapter in that particular book.
Find the word in the dictionary. Choose the correct word.
Vital. Necessary.
Put these words into alphabetical order. What part of speech is the word? Which sentence uses the word correct?
So very quick again, I'm going to pick up that second word and then that third word. Again, if I was in and not in as a demo student, everything would be locked up and I would have to do things step by step. I just want to quickly go in and show you making inferences. So we're always going to give them an example of what making inferences is, what that focus is, what that concept means. And then you are going to have to make inferences or decide what those inferences are based upon what you're reading here. So that is the system and what it's going to look like for Reading Express students. Last thing I want to show you is kind of the quiz and how that works. So they will read a section of the book that they're working on, maybe 1 or 2 pages. This one's just going to be 1 page. So you read through this, and then you'll have to take a quiz based upon what you've read. There will be drag and drop questions in here, as well. There will be multiple response questions, and again, they have to get a passing level of, I believe it's 72.5. I could be wrong; it might be 75 or 80. But they would go through, continuously answer these questions, and if they pass it, they get to, continue to move on to that next map. So that is, in a real quick, just a few minute synopsis, that is what they're going to see in Reading Express. It is, I think, a phenomenal resource. I've seen it best utilized is, they're using it once or twice a week, in the lab, but having them focus on lessons and then even reading books in here, I think it's a great way, to get the most out of this program. So I'm going to log out of here and then put myself into Candace's area again so that we can look at some data here. So I'm back, excuse me, at Candace Lamb's main page, and Candace Lamb is the subscription coordinator for Vandenberg Elementary. Although you now have Clever, which I think uploads all of your students for you, in the past, before we had Clever, or that link to Clever, excuse me, you would, ask Candace to add students to the system, although you as a teacher can do that as well. But quite often having one person do those things, eliminates having multiple students in there at any one time, or more than one student in there more than one time. So ultimately, every school again will have a subscription coordinator. However, I think at the district level and with Clever, I think you're going to, and then myself and Susan, you'll have a lot of different resources above and beyond that subscription coordinator. If you, so if we're not available, I think, Candace would be someone at Vandenberg who could answer a lot of questions for you. I'm going to quickly go into the reports area. So I want you to see the new data platform. So this is brand new. It opened up about a week and a half ago. Just gives you, as a teacher, if I wanted to go in as a subscription coordinator, I can see all of the classes. But as a student or as a teacher, I would only have my own class available. But I have, a lot of different things that I can review and dig deeper into. But if we talk about spelling lesson progress, I can dig deeper into that to see who those students are, or that one student is, because it's one contributing student. We have a lot of students in here. So let's go ahead and look at the Lexile growth. And I'll be able to dig deeper into seeing those 12 students that have been working, and then their Lexile growth in there. And then if I want to dig deeper into that particular student, I have the ability to do that as well. All of this information can be exported into PDF, so I think it can be a phenomenal tool, phenomenal resource for you in parent-teacher conferences. So you get some really interesting data available to you. You can view it as a chart or as a table. I just think it's a significant upgrade from where our data platform was in the past. So I know I only have a few more minutes. In fact, I've probably gone over the 30 minutes, but I do want to show you what a teacher is going to see. So I'm going to log out and log back in as my own teacher, and I'm going to set up my first class. So I've logged into my own personal trial school as Melanie Phelps, and I am going to show you how easy it is to set up your class. So in here as a teacher, I have, again, a lot of the rights that a subscription coordinator has, but I'm going to click on the Manage Class area. And I can add students to my class if I want to, and if it is in there another time, I believe it will recognize that, and let's just take a look and stop you, hopefully. So it already exists in your school. So you really can't add in. That is a change from previous years where you could have more than one student in. They've added that, but ultimately, this is my current class for Melanie Phelps. She's got 6 students in there, and want to add a few students that I, as the subscription coordinator, have added. I can click on Move Students into your class. Maybe I didn't put any more students in there. So one second to make sure I have some free students available. Okay, so I've logged in again as Melanie, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Manage Class. Go back to home so you can see what it looks like. So the first time you log in, this is what you'll see. And when I want to add students to my class, I can go ahead and click on Manage Class. In here, it will default to the students that I currently have in my class. I can also print out certificates here. I can print out class logins. They have great login cards as well as parent letters that you can send home. All of it will be available in the Manage Class area. I can also limit whether they're going to be able to play games or work in the playroom. But once I'm ready to find those students, that either I can add them again myself, or if the subscription coordinator has already had them in there, and in fact, they should all be in your system anyway because of Clever, I'll be able to move those students into your class. So I click on Move Students in your class. Again, if I did not have, or if these students, if Frank, Steve Jones, Will Stevens, and Fred Van Burst were already given to a teacher, I would not have access to them. So they can only be aligned to one particular teacher. But once you've, want those students in your class, you just click on those 4, or click on the check mark box here and add to your class, and then you'll have those students in your class. As simple as that. I'm going to just get Fred's login, and I am going to go ahead and log in as a student so you can see what that placement test looks like. All right, so again, what I've shown you as a teacher, the areas I think would be important for you to look at is Teacher Toolkit, again, in those quick links, the user guides, and then as you start getting some students into the system and utilizing the system, I think the reports are a phenomenal resource, as well as the lessons. And then I also wanted to talk to you about giving them specific assignments. So you can always give students specific assignments above and beyond their learning path. Very easy for you to do. So if I were to go ahead and create a new assignment, I would click on this. I would select it for all of my students. I would make a due date of whenever I wanted to make that due date end. And I can do a comprehension lesson, I can do a spelling lesson, or a library book. And that, I think, would be a good focus of yours to take a look at those correlation charts. But let's say I wanted to focus on a comprehension lesson, third grade. I can go ahead and find that lesson that I want to work on, and then create that assignment. So when that student logs in, which we'll go in and I'll show you where it's at, that student will log in, they'll click on Reading Express, and the first thing that they'll have to do when they click on Reading Express is to do this assignment. All right, so I'm going to log out and log in as a student so you can see not only where that managed lesson is, but also where that student's going to take the placement test. So let me log in here real quick. Fred 51, nope, Fred 1778, and then Hurt 51. All right, so student logs in. Again, they have access to either going to Reading Eggs or Reading Express or into the library. If you were to go into Reading Express, you will see that assessment pops up. So even if they're spending 90% of the time they're focused on Reading Eggs, you can give them an assignment to work on, and they'll have to click on a Reading Express, but they can go work on that assignment. Also, if we go into Reading Eggs, because this is a brand new student, I will go ahead and have them start that placement test.
I'm ready. And click on the word cat.
I'm going to get a couple right, but again, it's going to be 40 questions.
As in,
And then once they get 3 wrong,
click on the sentence.
they will start on their learning path.
Click on the sentence, I am.
Click on as. Click on the word the. Click on as if. Click on the word see.
All right, I'm going to start getting some wrong now.
Click on the sentence. Click on the word the. Click on the picture that starts with or. Click on the word.
So based upon my score, I am going to be starting in map 2. So as I go in here, I will be working on lessons. The Story Factory, because I've gotten past map 1, the Story Factory is open for me. Puzzles isn't, driving test isn't, the spelling area isn't, and Storylands isn't yet. But it looks like everything else has been opened up based upon how I did on that particular placement test. Again, I cannot get into any of these sections until I progress along map stop 1, and you can see here I cannot get into any of these other areas. You can see the little lock symbol there. So I'm going to have to work on each one of these step by step. So that is, and I know I've gone over the 30 minutes. Hopefully we've reintroduced you, if you haven't utilized it in a while, into both Reading Eggs and Reading Express, and showed you some of the areas that I think are underutilized, but I think can provide you additional resources to integrate Reading Eggs or Reading Express into your classroom activities, into small group activities, so on and so forth. We also are going to be providing you a couple documents. This document right here is our document, which shows how Reading Eggs and Exact Path link to that K-3 early literacy program and all of the different procedures that are expected of you as teachers. And so we will show you and talk to you through how both Reading Eggs and Exact Path will assist in that. And you also have in here our Daily 5. So if you do a Daily 5, we will talk you through how you can utilize parts or different components within Reading Eggs or Reading Express to address those needs. So these documents will go out to you. Again, hopefully this was beneficial to you all, and hopefully we will be able to do more of these moving forward. As you delve into both Reading Eggs and Reading Express, feel free to write lists of questions or ideas or things that you want to see. We would love to go into the spelling area or into the Story Factory and really show you how all of that works. So do not hesitate to reach out to Susan myself or Reading Egg Support or your district level officials. We are all here to make sure that you have a good grasp of how to utilize our solutions, and also how you can maybe implement them effectively moving forward. So again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions or needs, and we do hope that we'll be able to do these again for you moving forward. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.